Hello, all of you beautiful, charismatic, intelligent, ambitious people. This is Escape the J Curve, and welcome to episode 13. This is your host, Rohan Nag. Today, we'll be talking with Aima Ace. She's the host of the Tribe Secrets podcast and a customer avatar strategist. And we have a very interesting show for you today. Keep listening.
Hi, Rohan.
Aima, hi, how are you?
I'm very well, thank you. How are you?
I'm doing quite well, thank you so much. And thanks for joining episode 13 of Escape the Jacob.
Thanks for having me. I'm really honored to be here.
So, if you can quickly get started and if you introduce yourself, where are you from and what are you doing currently?
Okay, hi, my name is Aima. I am a digital entrepreneur and a business coach. So I help business owners, entrepreneurs, and coaches get the kind of clients that get their desired clients and customers without having to spend so much money on advertising and avoiding, nightmare clients.
Okay. Great. So, if we can get started with a bit of about your background, why did you decide to start this business? When did you start, and why did you start?
Yes, so I started in general entrepreneurship many years ago. So my journey actually started when I was 14, or my interest started when I was 14. But yeah, at the time, my mom refused to let me do anything entrepreneurial. I had to go to school. So I put that back on hold. And then again, I started at the age of 21. I bought, a puppy, and I started, 2 years later, I started breeding dogs, and I had a breeding business. And that did very well. For about 4 years, I was doing that because I have a passion for animals. I love animals as well. So that was really my first real entrepreneurial journey, where I started a business by myself, and it was, it was very successful. I was the go-to breeder in the town then. And then I had to relocate. So I left my country, Nigeria, and I came to the UK for school, because again, my mom insisted that I had to go back to university. So I had to school for like the next 5 years, after which I got a job, which is what, again, my mom wanted. But then I got to a point in my life where I realized, this is not really what I want to be doing. My calling is entrepreneurship. That's what my spirit wants, and that's where my spirit is leading. And over the years, my spirit has never been wrong. I've always had a very deep connection with my spirit, and it's never really failed me. So I thought, I'm going to start again. So I started back in the journey, this time online, last year. So around April last year was when I started. I've had a couple of failed businesses. I first of all started trying to sell out on Amazon. That didn't work out quite well. Wasted a lot of money, wasted a lot of time. And then I tried drop shipping. Again, that just, I just hated the process. I just hated how long it took to get the website up and running. I hated how long it took to get the products to customers. It just wasn't for me. And at this point, I was about, 9 months into the online journey. So I decided to just shut everything down, take a step back, and, just build everything back up from the ashes. But this time I knew exactly what I needed to do, right? So when I started the first two businesses, I didn't have the customer in mind. I had myself in mind. I had my financial freedom in mind. I started because I wanted to, though I was passionate about entrepreneurship, I wanted to, have the financial freedom, that the rewards that came with entrepreneurship. But this time around, when I was starting my new business model, I started really by asking the question, why am I doing what I'm doing? What is it? What's my biggest why? What's my big fat why? And, who do I want to serve? Who do I want to wake up every day for, feeling energetic and feeling like a hero for, who is my avatar, my customer audience that I really want to serve, that I want them to get to know me, and I want to get to know them even better than they know themselves. So that's how I started this new journey of being a business coach. And basically the idea came from, just looking at my background, looking at what I'd been doing over the past years, and just deciding, okay, this is what I'm really good at. And I can share my knowledge with the world, because a lot of entrepreneurs and business owners out there need the knowledge I have. And if I'm able to help them achieve what they're looking for in their business, that would in turn trickle down to financial rewards for me. So by beginning with the end in mind, by trying to help people, that in turn will, get me the rewards that I seek on this journey.
Wow. So lots to talk about in that segment. So number one thing that I found quite interesting was that you started at the age of 14. You started entrepreneurship at the age of 14. I think you beat Gary Vaynerchuk on this. He started at the age of 15 or so.
Well, I didn't properly start. I got exposed to it, so to say. Okay. So it was basically my mom was a civil servant, and I just saw how hard she worked, and I just felt there has to be more to life than this. So I remember talking to a neighbor of mine back then, and he gave me the book Rich Dad Poor Dad.
Oh, you read it at the age of 14. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And he said,
a very good, early start.
I know, right? He just gave me the book because I was like, I need to do something. He was like, you're only 14. I was like, yeah, so what? I was like, okay. So he gave me the book Rich Dad Poor Dad, and was like, if you want to change the situation of your family, this is where you need to start. And I started reading it. It was good. It was very, enlightening. And then he came and gave me another book, which was Cash Flow Quadrant. Now, this book is by Robert Kiyosaki as well, but it's a less popular book. It's not as popular as Rich Dad Poor Dad. Everyone has read Rich Dad Poor Dad, but not everyone knows about the Cash Flow Quadrant. But this Cash Flow Quadrant was the book that actually changed my life. Like, it changed my perspective on everything at the age of 14. I knew exactly where I wanted to be. I knew exactly what I wanted. And I asked my mom for some money to go and buy more books. And, she looked at me like, your mates are out there in diners eating chocolates and ice cream, and you're asking me for books. I was like, yeah, that's what I want.
Business books, like it's not for Harry Potter. It's for...
of course, no, I never read novels. I can't even sit down right now and read a novel, but I would read business books all day, every day. Like I bought, so I went out to the bookstore and I bought, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. I bought more books from Robert Kiyosaki. I bought quite a few books at the time. And funny, I still have all of them with me today. I remember when I was coming to the UK, I was like, I leave everything, but I want my books. And my mom had to pay like extra luggage for me because my books were heavy and it was too heavy to go in the plane, and I had to pay extra money. So yeah, I love my books.
Right. And another interesting thing that you talked about is your mom was against you starting a business, and there is a like so-called rule in society which says a steady job is the safer option. But look at what happened with COVID-19, and people who did not have a alternate source of income, a lot of them lost their jobs, and a lot of them are struggling with their payments and things like that. So I think it's very important to consider what's safe in today's economy, basically. So you never know. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think for me, it was just having, the background that my mom had. That was all she knew. She didn't know any better. She wouldn't have known that, well, she was not an entrepreneur. She's trying to start a business now. I think she's 60 something and trying to start a business now. I was like, yeah, you should have started a long time ago. But she didn't know any better. All she knew was her job. And and going to school and getting a degree. You know, the typical parent, she
Yep.
was totally against business. It's too risky. What if you fail? What she didn't realize at that point was I was young, so I had a lot of time to fail.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there was nothing really to be scared about. And I keep reminding her, if you had supported me back then, you know where I would have been today. And she's like, yeah, she knows, but I've started now. So, hey, hey, you know. But yeah, I think starting a business, but not just starting a business for the sake of starting a business. I believe in starting a business for the right reasons
Yeah.
and starting a business the right way with the right model. You know, I know a lot of gurus out there, and one of them is even a mentor of mine. They say, oh, just start a business and model somebody, don't copy but model.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really subscribe to that. I believe, you know, as an entrepreneur, your journey starts much before, you know, you even have a business name or before you even have like employees, because it's like you're going on a hiking journey. It takes planning, you
Yeah.
know, to understand the right business model. You need to do the research, understand your buy. And this, I believe very strongly, was the reason my first two businesses failed. I didn't take the time. I just jumped in. I didn't take the
Mm.
time to understand why I was doing what I was doing. And,
Yeah.
you know, the more important question of who is it that I really want to serve and what kind of results do I want to generate for them?
Right.
Is the most important question, you know, before you start a business. If you don't have this answered, I wouldn't suggest or advise to start a business just yet. And you also want to start with this kind of questions because you want to have a solid foundation when building a business now more than ever, because we never knew anything about a pandemic before. But
Sure.
now we know that there's a thing such as a pandemic that can come and wipe you away. But
Absolutely.
the more important thing is, as a result of the pandemic, if you have an online business, you have a lot more competition now. So if
Yep.
you don't serve the customer to the level of satisfaction that they want, they have no reason to be loyal to you because they have 1,000 other people that they can go to. So finding your why and being authentic about it, and then building your business from there with your ideal audience, you know, is, I believe, the best way to go about building a business right now.
Yeah. Totally agree. And I think this is one of the biggest reasons why people or businesses don't make it to the second year, because they want a business. They design a business according to if they will buy the product. People who
Yeah.
are pretty new to this, they want to see, okay, I'm very passionate about, say, I always bring up this example, this is a favorite example of mine. Say that
Yeah.
you are very passionate about underwater basket weaving and you want to start a business around that.
Yeah.
But if there's no demand for what you're trying to sell, then it's very difficult to promote it. And then
True.
you lose money to get customers. And at the end of the day, you realize I love it, but there are about 7.5 people across the world who want this product. And I cannot
Exactly.
build a sustainable business around that. So, very, very important point.
Exactly. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, to buttress that, I read this story in one of the books I was reading, and it was about this village and this
Mm-hmm.
guy, the village chief. They didn't have water in the village,
Yep.
but I think they had a pond or a lake or something about 5 miles away.
Yeah.
So the village chief put it out there like, we need water, so we need a few people to help us get water daily, and we'll pay them. So these two men volunteered. So I'll call one maybe Eric and the other one Richard. So Eric and Richard volunteered. And then the very next day, Eric, you know, started going to the pond every day, walking 5 miles. He
Mm.
bought a bucket, started going to the pond every day, 5 miles to back and forth, getting water for the people in the village, and they were paying him. So he immediately started making money. But then Richard was nowhere to be found. Richard just disappeared. So all the business was for Eric, right?
Yeah.
He would go to the pond, get water. He made enough money, bought a second bucket, started going, you know, doing the manual labor. He took his sons out from school so that they can join him on the family business. And, you know, of course, it started
Everybody
getting
working very hard to
exhausting.
build a business. Yeah.
Exactly. You know, they were working hard. But then Richard came back 6 months later with a whole team of engineers, construction workers, laborers, and they basically, surveyed the village and found where there was pockets of water within the ground, and they built a well for the village. They built a borehole, and the villagers could go right there to the borehole to get their water. So they didn't need the other guy anymore because they had the water brought to them. And now this guy's struggling to, keep his business afloat because his competition has pretty much just come and wiped him, away. And
overnight, yeah.
yeah, and that was and then this other guy who had the systems, he didn't do any of it himself. He just got people who knew how to do what he was doing, and then he went to other villages who needed this service and basically supplied all of them with the same deal, and they just had to pay him a percentage of just for the water and everything. And that was how he pretty much retired on this. And for me, that was a huge lesson. It's not about who starts first, it's about who is able to build a solid system that can last them for life, that they can pass on to their families and their generations, as opposed to just chasing the money and jumping straight in without having the proper systems.
Yeah, that's a brilliant story for sure. So, two questions to you. The first one being, we all know that starting a business, it's pretty difficult because everybody tells you, your parents, the educational system, and your friends, they tell you it's too risky, don't do it. Uh, get a proper job that'll, which is safe and that'll, help pay your bills. So somebody who has a idea and very passionate about something and they want to start a business, but they're discouraged by everyone around them. And I think that's a similar situation that you went through. So what
Yeah.
mindset or mindset related tip would you give them, how to conquer the insecurities or the doubts that they might have because of everybody around them being against the idea of starting a business? How would you deal with it, or how would you advise people who are just starting out to deal with that situation?
I would say, I mean, depending on how old you are,
Yeah.
if you are younger than 18, I'd say listen to your parents for now, okay? But when you get to the age of maturity, when you're
Mm-hmm.
able to make decisions on your own legally, I'd say
Yep.
go for it. And before you're able to, I think the first thing when starting a business is getting a mentor or getting a coach, getting somebody that has walked the paths that you're trying to walk. Now,
Mm-hmm.
of course, these are quite expensive, especially in this day and age, but
Yep.
I believe very much in the power of books. You know, start to read business books. They more than anything will change your mindset. Change when you wake up in the morning, what do you listen to? What kind of music do you listen to? What kind of information are you consuming at the moment? That plays a very, very huge role in your mindset. I can give all the advice and say, oh, you need to follow this, you need to follow that. But I think at the end of the day, it comes down to the daily activities of the individual. It comes down to what you feed your mind. It comes down to what you feed yourself on a
Yep.
daily basis. If you
So
feed
true.
yourself with, movies and Netflix and things like that, that whatever people tell you, you're going to believe it because you've not invested the time in yourself to change your mindset or believe otherwise. So if people tell you, oh, you're going to fail in business because I tried it in business and I failed, you're just going to believe it because that's all you know. But if
Yeah.
you expose yourself more to people who have walked the roads you want to go on and they've been successful, expose your mind to them every day. You have YouTube, you have podcasts, just feed your minds with these people. You will find that your subconscious is building a very, very solid foundation for you, is building a wall for you so that when these people try to discourage you, or when even you get discouraged, because like you said, business is not easy, right? You will start and you probably
Not at all.
fail a few
Yep.
times. You need this resilience to be able to come back up. You need this resilience to be able to, get yourself back up. And that's the very important question of the why that you should answer before you start anything. When you remind yourself of why you started, you're able to get back up. You're able to just know why you're doing what you're doing, and you have the mental belief, because you've already fed your mind with positive food. You have the mental belief that you're going to make it. And just by keep just by showing up every day, which is what most good coaches will tell you, just show up every day, have that commitment every day. If you want to grow your business through social media, show up on social media every day, whatever vehicle you use. If it's a post on Facebook every day, if it's a
Yeah.
post on Instagram, if it's a Facebook live, just show up every day. Surround yourself with people who are on the same path as you. Many times you can't get rid of the negative sayers, because they genuinely care about you. They don't want you to fail. That's why they're trying to protect you. But
Sure.
you have to be able to shield yourself from this. And the way you can shield yourself from this is by, building your mind and feeding your mind with positivity, as well as surrounding yourself with other people who are on the same path as you.
Absolutely. So, two very important points that you made here. So, I think one quote sums that up beautifully: your success cannot exceed your self development. So, if you're not there yet in terms of your discipline, your habits, your mindsets, and beliefs, and building your beliefs from grounds up with the content that you consume, it's very
Mhm.
difficult to be successful in anything, being it entrepreneurship or some other very highly challenging area.
Yeah, true.
Absolutely. And secondly, yeah, so building a group of mentors or somebody who is who can help you go navigate this journey, it's also very important.
Yeah. And sometimes, when you're starting out, you can't afford, 5,000, $3,000. Some people may not be able to afford that, at the start. If you can, it would be probably one of the best investments, depending on, again, on the coach. But if you can't, there's free resources. There's YouTube. You can just type in Tony Robbins or Les Brown. There's real motivational speakers, and just start from there. If you have some spare change, buy a book, read a book. And the internet has just exploded, so there's just so much resource out there
Yeah.
that you can start to feed your mind with.
Yes, totally. So, coming to the brass tacks, the tactics, say that somebody has built themselves up, their mindsets are in place, they are confident that, if they start something, they'll be very successful at it. They're passionate about it. So, going about the customer research phase, and they're about to start a business, they have a product in mind. How would they go about doing the customer research phase so that they know there's a demand for what they're trying to sell? What's the best way to do that, if according to you?
So I think the first thing to do is, when you understand, what you have to offer,
Yeah.
um, just Google is always your number one best friend. Just
Mm-hmm.
Google the topic, see what comes up on page one, what comes up on page two, what comes up on page three. Who are the top people in this field? Obviously, they will come up on pages one, two, and three. Um, then go on YouTube. Again, the second largest search engine in the world. Do the exact same thing. Who are the people making videos on this? Who are the existing experts in this? Because there's nothing new under the sun. Whatever you're trying to do, someone else has
Yeah.
already done it.
Yeah.
So look for these people, watch them. How are they? What points are they hitting on? How are they able to get, people to listen to them, follow them, and buy from them? This is where you start your research. Just using Google, using YouTube, um, and then I will personally write down a list of up to 20 or more.
Mm-hmm.
Russell Brunson suggests 100. I think
Okay.
that's a lot, but
Yeah.
you can do 100. Why not?
Yeah.
But write down at least 20 of those experts in your field.
Mm-hmm.
Now stalk them on every social media, like LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, Pinterest, Twitter, wherever they're on. Listen to their podcasts. Just stalk them everywhere. and you want to listen out for specific things. The number one thing you want to listen out for is what pain points are they addressing. So what words are they
This is
using
so important.
consistently?
Yeah.
For example, Peng Jun, who's one of my coaches,
Yeah.
is he's talks about presentation and public speaking, and so I'm listening to what he's saying. He's saying, oh, you can speak on a stage even though you're shy of cameras. That's an objection right there. That means that people who want to speak on the stage, they have an objection, and one of the objections is being shy on camera. He says, oh, you can speak on stage even though you're an introvert, you're shy of people. And that's another objection. Then I'll do a bit more research, and I did a bit more research actually, and I found out that a lot of speakers are actually introverts, but when they're on stage, they're in their elements. As soon as they get off stage, they're back to being introverts. And that was very powerful for me. So you want to listen to the things that they consistently say, because the thing about speakers and successful experts is that they have one thing that they say all the time. Like when they do a presentation or a video, it's typically based around three things, but then you can pick up the number one, underlying factor of what they're saying. And just based around that, they've built a business. So you want to really study their presentations. That's why I say go on YouTube, go on Google, look at the blogs if they have blogs, watch their videos. What you're looking for really is the pain points and the objections that they're addressing. Because if you want to sell successfully, you don't come from a place of logic. People don't buy logically. People buy with emotions. So you want to and the best way to get their emotions is by addressing the pain, by making them understand that you've been where they are, or you understand, even though you've not been where they are, you understand what they're going through, and you do have a result for them that's easy, painless, and that they can do it. Belief is a strong thing as well. So speaking tactically, that's what I would do. I'll follow and stalk at least 20 experts in my field. See what they're doing. ClickFunnels now has the the Sukoma Club Awards. So again, look for people who've got these awards in your field. I believe this is another going to be another strong search engine for upcoming entrepreneurs to find people that they can model, people that have been successful. So yeah, find these people, follow them, see what they talk about, see their lives, watch their characters as well. Again, based on your business model, if you're building a personal brand, you want to have what Russell Brunson calls an attractive character. So you want to start developing your character in such a way that it would attract people that you want, but more importantly, it will repel the people that you don't want, because you really don't want to work with people that don't resonate with your message, because they will just give you a hard time. So that's where I'll start with the customer research. Another important thing really is to try and survey people. So you go on Facebook. The easiest and cheapest way, free way to do this really is go on Facebook groups and just ask questions. Ask questions to people on your field. And the ClickFunnels group is a very active group, and people are very responsive. So you're just collecting surveys and just trying to get people's pain points. And that's another way you can get customer data.
You know what? That was absolutely brilliant. So many gold nuggets in the last 5 to 10 minutes of the conversation. It gives people a direction to actually, if they want to start out but they don't know how to, they get step 1, step 2, step 3 to get started. That was so good. Thank you so much for that.
Thank you. Thanks.
The next thing I would like to talk about, since you're such a bookworm and you love reading business books, one book recommendation that people can really benefit from.
Right, that's a tough one. Okay, well, for me, I'd always recommend my favorite book, which is The Cash Flow Quadrant by Robert Kiyosaki. I recommend that for your mindset, to shift your mindset. So some people are employees. Basically, the book talks about 4 quadrants of cash flow, which is the 4 quadrants that people get paid from. So you have employees,
self-employed, business owner, and investor. So left and right.
exactly. So I would start with that book. It changes your mindset. It changes the way you view, the different quadrants, and it talks about the kind of languaging that you would use when you're in each quadrant and how to recognize people in each quadrant. So, for example, the employee would say, "Oh, I just want the security. I want a secure job. I don't want a job. I don't want to bounce around, jobs. I just want that secure job that's going to pay me at the end of every month and
Yep.
help me take care of my family." That's a typical employee. And the benefit of that is that how to speak to them. So if you're trying to get them to buy your products, the kind of languaging to use. So that's why I recommend that book for mindset and understanding fundamentals of messaging and talking to people and business. The other book I'd recommend for marketing, because there is no business without marketing. If you don't have marketing in your business, you don't have a business, pretty much. And it's a book called Cashvertising by I think it's Drew Wheatman or something like that. That's a book that drops a lot of solid knowledge. It's an old book before the internet marketers came up, but it does really drill into the fundamentals of human psychology, the power of persuasion, and it gets you to understand how to talk to people. Again, it all comes down to your language and your messaging, how to talk to them and get them to live in your product or live in your service and just want to buy from you.
Well, I've never heard of this book, Casualizing. Right after this podcast, I'm going to buy it and read it. Thank you so much for the recommendation.
Yeah, it's a good one. It's on Amazon. So
Okay, I'll just I'll get it right away. Okay, so the last segment. So where can people find you, and how can you help people who are starting out and they have a business plan and they don't know how to execute it? Where can they
um,
find you, and then how can you help them?
well, I'm on Facebook, I'm on Twitter,
Mm-hmm.
I'm on Instagram, and I have just started a YouTube channel which doesn't have any videos yet,
Right.
but I'm building that gradually. So yeah, the best way to find me is on Facebook. I'm Aima Ace on Facebook. You can send me a message and just tell me that you've listened to the Escape the Jacob podcast interview, and I'll know exactly where you're coming from. You can also follow me on Instagram. On Instagram, I am the Tribe Secrets,
Mm-hmm.
and my name on there is Customer Avatar Tips, because that's one of my specialties, is helping people know and create, or helping them identify and then create their ideal customer avatar. But then helping them do this based on real data, not just based on their bias and what they think the customer wants. It's actually show them how to use real data to back up what their ideal customer wants, and how
Mm.
to talk to the customer, the messaging, and then how to target them in their advertising. So yeah, you can find me on Instagram at Tribe Secrets. I also have a podcast called the Tribe Secrets Podcast, and yeah, I talk a lot more in detail about these topics on my podcast as well.
Sounds good. I'll link all of those in my description so people can find you easily. Thank you so
Mhm.
much for your time, Iman. Thanks for being on the podcast. Thanks
Thanks for
for
having me, Rohan.
the great tips, and we'll stay in touch when maybe we can do an episode on tribe secrets together
Yeah,
soon.
definitely, most definitely. Thank you so much for having me, and great
Thank you.
questions.
Have a good weekend, whatever's left
You
of it.
too.
Bye bye.
Bye.
Bye.